woman called Julie drives her car to go to her new home and talks to someone on the phone to invite him to visit her at home. She tells him that she chose this home because there is something magical that attracted her to buy it. We find out that Julie is pregnant, which is why she feels so happy. When she enters the house, she finds many workers in it, and her husband Daniel welcomes her, but says sorry because he couldn't speak to her in the morning. Then a worker enters and gives Julie a bracelet he found in the bathroom, so she takes it. Julie enters her room with Daniel, who is exhausted from the endless house modifications. She says that they know that the house is old, but it will be something great when it finishes. In the evening, Julie is getting ready to go out with her husband and sees the bracelet that the worker found, so she wears it. She then carries a box and remembers something, but suddenly she hears a child's voice and tries to know the source of it. But she is terrified when sees her husband. Daniel takes her to the new children's room and surprises her with the modifications he made to it. He also puts a camera that is connected to their iPad, which makes Julie so happy. They go out to attend a party, but it seems that Julie doesn't like her husband's friends and finds them boring. At the party, one of Daniel's friends asks them about the first time that Julie and Daniel met. So Julie laughs and tells him that they met in a bar, and when Daniel saw her, he kept talking to her all night. When he found out that her work was related to the museum, he suggested meeting her again to see his watch, but he was lying and made it an excuse to see her again. All the attendants are happy with their story and laughing, and one of them stops with Julie and keeps talking about her pregnancy. She asks Julie where they live now, and Julie tells her that it is next to the lake, but this woman tells her that she knew someone who lived in the same home before them, and then his wife got tired and died. Meanwhile, the woman changes the subject and tells Julie that she is definitely happy with her new life and her first child, but Daniel intervenes in the discussion and agrees with her. When they return home, Julie fights with him because he tells his friends that this is their first child. By the way, Julie was pregnant with a child before, but he died. Daniel tells her that he did this to start a new life, and they have to stop thinking about what happened. So, Julie says that he was their son, and that sometimes she feels that Daniel considers him as if he wasn't born, but he says that she is the one who forgets that he died. Julie gets upset and goes to her room. Suddenly, she sees a child in front of her, so Julie is shocked and falls down the stairs. Daniel gets scared and quickly takes her to the hospital. Meanwhile, Julie is in a coma and remembers when she was giving birth to their first child, and that when he was born, had no voice. And when they found out that he had died, Julie collapsed and kept shouting. When Julie wakes up, she finds Daniel sitting next to her, reassuring her that she is okay. The doctor sits with them and says that there has been a partial rupture of the placenta, and she will be in danger if a complete rupture happens. But her pregnancy is still good, and the bleeding has stopped. Despite this, the doctor asks her to remain in bed without moving until she gives birth, and not to do anything other than go to the bathroom. Before Julie goes out of the hospital, the doctor warns her to move or be exposed to any tension, as any pressure won't only be dangerous to the baby, but she will be in danger too. When Julie comes home, she sits on the bed, and Daniel brings everything next to her, like the iPad and a handheld transceiver, so that she can talk to him at any time and stay on the bed. On the first day, Julie finishes all her work on her bed, but gets bored after doing everything. When she enters the bathroom, she hears a baby crying. Julie goes out to see what is happening, but finds nothing, and she suddenly hears a knocking sound in the closet, but also finds nothing. When her husband arrives, Julie suggests watching a movie together. Since the roads will be closed due to the weather, Daniel stays with her, but he is talking to his friends all the time. Meanwhile, Daniel notices that there is a shipment in their room, so he finds out that Julie moved and took it from the delivery man by herself. Daniel gets angry and tells her to listen to the doctor's words, but Julie shouts at him and says that this stupid cartoon is the most important thing in her day. She remains upset until Daniel apologizes to her and tells her that he is only worried about her. He then thanks her for bearing all this and tells her that he loves her and falls asleep. But Julie can't sleep and stays awake, and suddenly she hears a knocking sound again. Julie gets terrified when she sees a child in the closet. She wakes up Daniel and tells him that there is someone in their house. Daniel wakes up immediately, but finds the closet empty, and there is no one in it. So he asks her if she is really okay. Julie tells him she's fine and tries to sleep again. On the 13th day, there are 43 days left until birth, and Julie remains sitting by the window, cleaning the bracelet she found. But hears the voice of a child coming from the garden. When she sees him, she tries to talk to him and asks him about his mother, but the child points to Julie and says that she is his mother. Julie is shocked and terrified when she hears a knock on the door, and suddenly the child disappears. When she opens the iPad to see the children's bedroom, Julie is terrified when she sees a child in the mirror. So she calls the emergency and asks them to help her as there is someone in their house. They ask Julie to lock her room door until they arrive, but Julie sees the child again, so she gets scared and quickly closes the door. Meanwhile, she sees mystery footsteps on the ceiling, and when the police arrive, they find nothing. Daniel comes and asks what is happening, and the officer informs him that his wife saw a child in the house. The officer asks him to call him if they suspect anything. After that, Julie sees her husband talking to the officer, and she gets nervous. When Daniel enters the room, he asks Julie if she is fine, as Daniel doesn't believe her words and tells Julie that she imagines people who don't exist. He tells her that he will call the doctor to bring a nurse to take care of her. Although Julie refuses, Daniel insists and tells her that he will bring the nurse for their child, not for her. At night, Julie opens the same box again. It seems that this box was for their late child, and she keeps smelling his clothes and crying. She then takes his favorite toy and hugs it until she falls asleep. When Julie wakes up, she sees that the toy is moving on the ceiling and suddenly falls on the bed. Then Julie hears a knocking sound, so she opens the iPad and keeps calling out to her son, still convinced that he is the one in the room. She asks him to appear in front of her. Meanwhile, Daniel enters the room because he hears her voice, but Julia lies to him and tells him that she was talking to one of her friends on the phone. On the 23rd day, there are 33 days left until the birth. The nurse arrives at the house, and Julie knows her name is Delmy. Julie tells her that her name is weird, but Delmy tells her that it's her German grandmother's name. She then measures her blood pressure and finds that everything is fine. Meantime, Julie asks her if she has children. Delmy tells her that she and her husband have tried a lot, but her body isn't capable of getting pregnant. Julie apologizes to her, but Delmy interrupts her and says that she sees herself as the mother of all the children she has helped to be born. Then, she tells Julie that she knew from Daniel about their son who died, and that Julie had psychosis after giving birth and entered a sanatorium for 6 weeks. At that time, Julie kept seeing her son after he died, and she couldn't forget him. But Delmy comforts her and asks Julie to trust her, no matter what she faces. On the 29th day, Julie starts to get along with Delmy, but when Julie is in the bathroom, the child suddenly appears in front of her and points to her stomach, saying, "My little sister," so Julie panics and calls for Delmy. Then they call the doctor, but when he examines her, finds that she is fine and the condition of the baby is stable. The doctor tells them that he is worried about her, and she finds out that her husband told him about the sanatorium. The doctor asks her about her son's age, in case he is still alive, so Julie tells him that he will be 5 years old, and the doctor tells her that her mind may be incapable of forgetting after what happened. After that, he asks Daniel and the nurse to leave the room. He tells Julie that she has no choice but to stay in the hospital until she gives birth, or to return and take psychiatric medications. Julie refuses to stay in the hospital and says that she can't do it, but the doctor reassures her that the medications won't cause the baby any harm, and this is because the baby has grown and the medications won't affect him. Then he asks her to take care of herself until the time of the birth of the baby and leaves, but Julie hears him on the iPad while he warns Daniel that she could have a nervous breakdown, and if the medicine doesn't make her better, they will have to take her to the hospital again. Julie gets upset, but she goes back to taking the medicine, gets better, and returns to her normal life again. On the 38th day, there are 18 days left until the birth. Julie stops taking the medicine and imagines that her son is playing ball with her, but she is shocked when she notices that their cat is seeing her son. After a while, and 10 days before the birth, Julie enters the bathroom to take a shower. She keeps calling for her son until the little boy suddenly appears, warns her, and says that she has to leave because she will take his little sister, Julie, then asks him who is she, but he disappears. Meanwhile, Delmy calls Julie and asks her if she finished bathing, and Julie is scared when she finds Delmy next to her, but Delmy tells her that she doesn't want her to worry while she is beside her. Julie suspects her and asks Daniel to dismiss her, but Daniel refuses to do it and tells her that the doctor recommended her by himself and that they are lucky to have her. But Julie insists and says that she doesn't trust her, so Daniel asks about the reason. She tells him that the child she sees is real and that he is trying to protect them, but Daniel demands her to shut up and tells her that their son is dead. Julie gets upset and tells him that she knows very well that their son died and that her heart burns for him every day. Daniel asks her if she is taking medicine, so Julie cries and tells him that she knows that it is difficult for him to believe her, but she tries to convince him that she is really seeing their son and tells him that what is happening is real and that their son wants to communicate with them. She asks Daniel to support her, but says sorry and tells her that she needs more than support. Then he goes to turn off the camera in the children's room. On day 53, 3, there are 3 days left until the birth. Julie throws medicine in the bathroom and gets so nervous that she bites her nails until hurts herself. Meanwhile, she sees her husband while talking to Delmy. Shortly after, she comes to check on Julie and tells her that the baby is fine, but it appears that Julie doesn't want to talk to her. So Delmy tells her that she lost her first child after 18 weeks, and the pregnancy was fine until suddenly she lost the baby. After that, she became pregnant 3 times, but none of them was born. That broke her heart and kept asking herself what she had done wrong until she remembered a story about a woman who lived in the same house that they are in now, and that she had 3 children and was pregnant with the 4th. Then the woman and her husband had an accident while she was going to give birth in the hospital, and the result was that she lost her child. After that, she kept crying for her every day in front of the lake until she committed suicide out of grief. Delmy tells Julie that the story makes her feel that she isn't alone and that the mother's grief is a strong thing, but she either learns how to live in peace with it or it will destroy her. Julie asks about the name of the woman who committed suicide, and Delmy says that her name is Kinsey. Shortly after, Julie searches for the bracelet in her hands and cleans it, but is shocked when she finds the first letter of Kinsey's name written on the bracelet. And when she reads the house contract, she finds Kinsey's name. So she calls the real estate company that sold this house to her and asks the employee for information about Kinsey. The employee says that she died by suicide and promises to search for more details and send it to her ASAP. On the last day before giving birth, Julie is sitting on the bed and suddenly she hears a voice. She puts her phone on the mobile device, enters the children's room, and the little boy appears. Julie asks him if Kinsey is the one who wants to get rid of her child, but the child leaves her and runs away, and she is shocked when she sees 3 children. Suddenly the signal disconnects, and Julie hears the voice of someone. She sees a mysterious hand on her body, but she screams and calls for Delmy, who comes and asks her if she is going to give birth. Delmy tries to get her tools, but Julie is afraid to stay alone and begs Delmy to stay with her. Delmy reassures her and says that she will return quickly. Meanwhile, Julie receives a message from the company employee, and when she opens it, she finds the news of Kinsey's suicide and pictures of Kinsey with her husband and children. Julie is shocked when she sees the little boy in the picture and realizes that he isn't her son. When Daniel arrives, she tells him that they have to leave the house because it is not safe. But her husband and Delmy stop her, and she tries to convince them that Kinsey will kill their child. Meanwhile, Julie is shocked when she finds out that Daniel knows about Kinsey's story, but hides it from her. He says that he didn't tell her because she liked the house so much. Julie says that she tried a lot to tell him what is happening is real, and that she wasn't imagining it, but no one believed her. But she insists on leaving and shouting that Kinsey will kill their child. While they are talking, they hear the sound of the door opening, and everything breaks in the room. Suddenly, another child appears and asks her to hide because his mother is coming. Delmy shouts at Kinsey and orders her to leave Julie alone, but Kinsey throws Delmy from the window and she dies. Daniel panics and takes Julie to escape, but the chandeliers fall on him, and Julie gets terrified when she sees his blood in her hands. Julie tries to leave the house, but she keeps crying until she hears the sound of the handheld transceiver. So she tries to call for help, but she falls into the bathtub and keeps screaming until Julie gives birth and hears her daughter crying. Then she hugs her. Julie is surprised by the spirit of Kinsey, who tries to take the child away, but Julie holds her daughter tightly and keeps shaking the bathtub in which she is sitting. She tells Kinsey that she will not take her daughter from her, and Julie manages to fall on the ground floor with her daughter. Meanwhile, Daniel is still alive and tries to take them and run away, but Julie can't get up and asks him to take the baby and escape. He carries the baby and tries to get out, but Kinsey arrives and wants to take the child from him. Julie suddenly wakes up and orders Kinsey to get away from her daughter, grabs her by the neck, and keeps holding her until Kinsey goes out of the house. Then, Julie goes to Daniel and tries to talk to him, but he doesn't answer her. Julie collapses when she finds out that she has died and that this is her soul, and Daniel keeps screaming for her when he sees the paramedics trying to save her. Meanwhile, the little child comes and tells Julie that her son is calling her, so Julie enters the room to find her son sleeping in the bed. So she hugs her son and tells him that he is finally with her, then takes him to leave. She sees her husband, who begs her to come back. Shortly after, Delmy comes and takes her son from her, promising that she will take care of him. Suddenly, the paramedics rescue her, and Julie is back alive again. After a long time has passed, we see Daniel playing with his daughter, and Julie asks to play with them. Thanks for tuning in. A thumbs up would be amazing because I've got some bills to pay.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right?